Welcome to the Korea Pro Podcast, your weekly guide to understanding the most pressing and complicated developments shaping South Korea. We're your hosts, Jeongmin Kim,
John Lei,
and Joon Park of Korea Pro.
Go beyond headlines as we explain not just what happened, but also what really matters and why it matters.
If you monitor South Korea for work or just trying to keep up, you're in the right place.
This is the Korea Pro Podcast. Welcome back, listeners, to Korea Pro Podcast. Jeongmin and Joon joining here today. John is not available. We're recording July 17th, Thursday, a little bit after 3 p.m. It's Constitution Day, and we will start with an exclusive opinion editorial that General Brunson of USFK and UNC CFC wrote for us and NK News over the weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was to mark the anniversary.
75th anniversary.
It was to mark the 75th anniversary of the establishment of the UN command, and his basic point, alongside a lot of explanation about the history of the command, is that it's now future-oriented, and that the hidden message I thought reading through it was that the UNC's focus is twofold, basically. It's not just deterrence through strength, but also dialogue through engagement.
Mm-hmm.
The timing is interesting. That he decided to write an op-ed marking, I think these are, messages that he sent out as a statement.
Sure.
Alongside the statement, he is writing op-ed as well. And under the new Lee administration, and traditionally progressive administrations in South Korea tended to have a not so friendly relations all the time with the UNC and the USFK. So it seems like his message is pretty clear for the South Korean and the US audience as well. And let's move on to some of the political developments in South Korea this week. It was a very politics-heavy week because of the confirmation hearings.
Super week.
Yeah, it was a super week. And some are more controversial than others that we will go into. But let's start with the defense minister nominee, Ahn Gyu-baek. Who is he and what were some of the main controversial points that he made?
Yeah, so he's the first civilian defense minister in 64 years without prior military leadership experience.
If confirmed.
Yeah, if confirmed. Usually we've seen defense ministers from South Korea get 3 or 4 star rank in the military, but
especially Army, usually.
Especially Army. Sometimes you have Air Force, but of course, indefinitely Army. But Ahn Gyu-baek does not have any prior military leadership experience, so most of the confirmation hearings saw Mr. Ahn receive fielding quite a lot of questions from the PPP regarding his military experience, his status as a 방위병, sort of a member of the military reserves at the time in the 80s when they were serving, 3 years tops for even regular forces. So he had to just clarify the information within that. But the main thing that sort of came up during Ahn Gyu-baek's hearing was OPCON transfer.
Yeah, that was very interesting, right? Which was the remark that got controversial?
Yeah, so he stated immediately after receiving a question about should South Korea pursue OPCON transfer, and he said they should definitely pursue it, but we're trying to do it within the 5 years that Lee administration goes. And of course, the presidential office, just hours later after that remark, they rebutted it and refuted it immediately, saying that it was Ahn's personal opinion, saying that there is no fixed timeline that the presidential office is yet to decide on sort of an OPCON reclaim.
Right. It was interesting because the reporter specifically asked, and Ahn also specifically used the term transition or transfer, which is 전환. But reclaim, this has historical baggage to its meaning and the tone
환수,
and
right?
sentiment. Yes, 환수. Because the idea is it was stolen or taken away, and then they're trying to claim it back, reclaim. So the spokesperson, even when asked about transition, answered with reclaim twice.
But the thing about that is that when you look at it in a historical way, in 1950 during the Korean War, Syngman Rhee, the commander-in-chief at the time and the president of South Korea, he transferred OPCON, or Wartime Operational Command, to General Douglas MacArthur, who was in charge of the Allied forces. So South Korea's Joint Chiefs, they reclaimed or had the transfer back of peacetime OPCON in 1994, but they still haven't met the 3 conditions that were required in 2014 for the full OPCON transfer.
So it requires several conditions, like there's conditions under the OPCON and also when it comes to creating the future combined command. forces. So these are quite complicated, but the main issues has been like the capability side of it, which is hardware, and the software side of it.
Sure.
And also the environment, security environment that surrounds the peninsula that is conducive for the OPCON transfer to actually happen. And coming after the martial law and usage of the South Korean military, the former general, doing this thing
And
as a
also
defense
just
minister.
accidents within the Air Force.
Yeah, the missile crossing the NLL and drones. This, I'm not sure if it was the optimal timing for someone like Ahn to actually mention this as a fixed time sort of
Sure.
idea. Could have been a mistake, but it's something to keep an eye on, and I'll be writing an analysis for NK News and Korea Pro in the coming week. Let's move on to Unification Minister Chung Dong-yang's hearing. What was the main issue that was raised at the time?
Yeah, so the Unification Minister, he did face quite some backlash for his views on North Korea as what we, within political circles, and it's quite a politically charged question of whether North Korea is the main enemy of South Korea, the Chujeok.
His answer was very headline-attracting way of saying
Indeed,
it.
yeah.
I could see that he comes from party politics. Like, he wasn't that cautious.
Yeah, and he's a former journalist as well.
Yeah, he said North Korea is not a Chujeok main enemy, and that he disagrees with the idea. And what was his logic?
So he was abiding by the Constitution, saying that the ROK's territory is constitutionally based, covering North Korea as well. And the Unification Minister nominee Chung was saying that North Korea should be seen as both a partner and also a threat, an immediate threat to...
Threat rather than enemy.
Exactly.
I see.
But this sort of politically charged question has been in the running for the past 30 years.
Yeah.
In 1995, we saw Seoul use the first term in its defense white paper after North Korean officials threatened to turn Seoul into a fireball. And then the first term enemy or main enemy, Chujeok, came out. And then it was deleted again in 2004 under the Nominee administration after Sunshine Policy, and then reinstated after some conservative governments came in, and then taken away again after Moon came back into power when reconciliation was happening at the same time. So it's become a back and forth term, and it's not legally binding. It's not within the South Korean constitution, abiding by the logic of the Unification Minister, but also the Foreign Minister and the Labor Minister, who was grilled for his position on North Korea as well. So if we look at that from a perspective on a legal stature basis, then the term Chujeok does not carry much of legal weight in that sense.
Meaning, right? But it's definitely still a politically, culturally, something that sort of serves as a litmus test in party politics. Let's move on to Foreign Minister. Foreign Minister's confirmation hearing is happening today as we record the podcast episode. What are some of the main topics that will likely be asked to the Foreign Minister?
So the Foreign Minister has already been asked on the prospect of an OPCON transfer. He's also been asked by Ahn Cheol-soo, the PPP lawmaker, about the sort of the presidential office and the Foreign Ministry's position on Xi Jinping's invitation to Lee Jae-yong for the China military parade.
What'd he say?
Yeah, the Victory Day parade. So what he was saying, PPP lawmakers were taking issue with the fact that a China ROK summit could happen before a U.S. ROK summit between Trump and Lee and Xi and Lee. So
which is what we flagged in the executive briefing.
And what the Foreign Minister nominee Cho Hyun was saying was that that will not happen under his watch, and that there are multiple issues that are concurrently going on at the same time that we need to look over within the Foreign Ministry. That's why we will advise the best decision for the presidential office in order to attend or not.
It sounds like the nominees have to coordinate a little bit better on these issues, because I think some other official, maybe it was a Unification Minister nominee, that said that we should move away from the paradigm of wanting, like, having, seeing a U.S. summit as a complete must coming before any other. But considering it's China versus U.S., the answer is pretty clear for South Korean public sentiment, I guess.
Absolutely.
And now that you earlier mentioned Labor Minister nominee, it was actually interesting because Labor Minister nominee, but the PPP lawmakers kept asking about the ideological allegiance, like the North Korea issues, because the Labor Minister nominee for the first time is former KCTU leadership, the main trade union in South Korea. and a frontline worker at Korail, actually. And so because it shows how politically, culturally, the idea of labor union is linked closely to the conservative perception that they are pro-North Korea, basically. But it seems like the labor minister sort of answered pretty generally, it seems. And to just focus a little bit more on specifically labor minister related issues, he did say that he will try to pursue yellow envelope law as soon as possible.
Yeah,
right?
so he's been quite a firm advocate of the yellow envelope law for the past couple of years. You know, he joined the DP in 2023 just to run for the 2024 April general election. Unfortunately, he did not get the lawmaker position. However, at that time, he was also pushing for a yellow envelope law that was vetoed under the Yoon administration multiple times. So it does look like the yellow envelope law and discussions on it will commence immediately after if his confirmation report is adopted. Even if it's not adopted, the president can still approve it with sort of a subpoena. But, you know, we still need to wait and see.
Right, and the DP and the Lee administration did the policy meeting, 당정협의 meeting, and they did mention yellow envelope law, saying that the DP wants to pursue it at least in August, maybe in July even. And if it's passed, I think it's going to be passed because they hold majority. It will be implemented after a year grace period, probably per tradition.
Yep.
Let's move on to Science Minister. He's confirmed, right?
Yes, so he has been confirmed. He's the first cabinet minister to take office under the Lee Jae-yong administration. He was confirmed just yesterday on Wednesday. His name is Baek Young-hun. He's an AI specialist who worked at LG, Samsung, and SK Telecom.
And specifically LG AI Center, right?
Yes. So he is quite firm in that sort of Lee Jae-myung style AI strategy.
Sovereign AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was confirmed by the president after receiving that adopted confirmation report, bipartisan, that was coming from the Science Committee.
We just discussed sovereign AI issue with its links to data privacy in companies in South Korea going forward at the Korea Business Forum. So if you're interested in hearing more insights about these sort of issues, try joining Korea Pro Premium. Just a little bit of a sales pitch here. And now let's move on to gender and education ministers. The new thing under the first term cabinet minister picks are actually important to see. To baseline what kind of policy direction and representation ratio sort of thing that the administration aims at. And initially, because there were 5 women nominees, it was like, oh, nice. And finally, better representation. And then 2 of the 5 are now in major controversy.
They're in hot lava.
Let's start with the gender minister nominee, Kang Sun-woo.
Yeah.
She is a DP lawmaker, right?
Yes.
And she does have on paper the right credential, but then the whole issue about her allegedly mistreating the staffer so far.
Yeah, so it does turn out that many of the staffers that she had in her 4 or 5 year term as a lawmaker, more than 30 have
like 46 or something, right?
Have lost their or have left their positions due to undue stress, working under Kang allegedly. You know, Kang has tried to allay those concerns during her confirmation hearing, but unfortunately she was unable to, as the PPP and also
DP as well.
Some members of the DP have taken issue with her role, not only just as a lawmaker, but as a boss indefinitely. And yeah, so she faced quite a lot of backlash, not only from the PPP and DP, but also on that issue, but also on the issue of policymaking.
Right, from women's rights organizations and other organizations, she faced issues when it comes to, like, first of all, of course, like she said, anti-discrimination law requires social consensus, which has been a big political baggage that the EP has carried for the past 10 years or so, because they kept sort of kicking the can down the road.
Well, they want to win votes.
Yeah, and not only that, but even less difficult things to actually push for, like the sexual consent law when it comes to rape charges, right? It was due amendment, and after Ahn Hee-jung incident, which used to be a very influential DP figure, this discussion has taken off for the past 5-6 years. And then she is saying that this even needs a social consensus. And because of this, women's rights organizations are saying that she should actually step down.
Yeah, she's, the sort of policy making decisions that she has flagged or has sort of echoed throughout her confirmation hearing was not at all encouraging to these women's rights groups, and also coupled with the controversies or alleged controversies surrounding her term as a boss for most of these, for most of her secretariat, is something that she's facing quite a lot of pressure to step down.
Right, because the confirmation hearings for cabinet ministers, aside from the prime minister, is actually just to see the qualification rather than requiring actual confirmation. It's a hearing to see what they are like. The president can go ahead and appoint them like Yoon did and Moon did before. But because of this, non-binding sort of nature of the confirmation hearings for non-PM cabinet ministers, the focus is a lot on morality, actually, right? Perceived morality. And speaking of which, Education Minister nominee Lee Jae-yong is facing morality-related and ethical concerns, controversies. Let's start with the plagiarism controversy.
So, both the gender minister and the education minister have taken quite a lot of political baggage on their sort of past acts. As you just mentioned, the education minister has come under fire for her acts of plagiarism on multiple counts, where she was writing essays and articles and journals on certain issues that were under her agenda or education agenda at the time, but was plagiarized.
How ironic, right?
But was plagiarized from some of her students' work, allegedly.
Yeah.
And, when you see that come into play for the role of education minister and what that role actually entails under the South Korean constitution and the cabinet member pool, the education minister will be a deputy prime minister.
Yeah,
when you
right.
put that into perspective on whether it reflects the basic consensus of the general rock public, I can tell you for sure that the rock public will not agree to plagiarism from students.
Yeah, of course. It's pretty clear, right? Especially if you're education minister nominee. And not only that, she is a former head of the Chungnam National University. So she was meant to pursue one of Lee's biggest pledges, which is the, multiple type of national university sort of project, right? Because it leads to, the aim was the spillover effect into low birth rate issue, a more balanced regional development when the education is more balanced throughout the region. So she, being in Chungnam in the past, she was supposed to do that as a minister when confirmed. So that was the right credential, but then she also got into controversy because of her own children not really studying in the regional, it's fine, but it was also really expensive tuition abroad and something. So it's not exactly illicit or anything, but it's just not great optics, it seems. Yeah. So that is getting some traction in South Korea right now. Let's move on to Lee sending special envoys to some of the main partnering countries abroad. The Lee administration started off with a delegation to European Union, France, UK, and India this week. When they announced it over the weekend, they said that the delegations are set for 14 countries, including the US, Japan, and China, although some delegation heads are still unconfirmed.
Yep.
And especially we have to touch on the U.S. envoy delegation. It was reportedly supposed to be led by Kim Jong-in, the kingmaker in South Korean politics.
Former PPP
the elder,
leader.
kind of centrist, Park Geun-hye's econ mentor and also Lee Jun-suk's mentor recently. But it sparked controversy, not just because he's conservative-ish, but also because of his past criticisms online of Trump calling him insane and a demagogue. So the idea within the DP was that he might be not the best person to make nice with Trump. And now today we are seeing reports that the Lee administration has a new pick for the U.S. envoy reportedly.
Yeah, so we've seen reports that Park Yong-man, the former Doosan chief, the conglomerate, is set to be the new U.S. envoy. Of course, we still have to wait until the presidential office actually confirms and decides and announces Park's actual role as a U.S. envoy and who will follow him as a team, as a supportive team, but we still have to wait and see.
So far, all the teams are basically DP lawmakers involved in certain, main sectors that we are working on exports and more coordination with, such as climate, defense industry export, nuclear power plant export, and so on and so forth. And for China, we're hearing from reports that the former National Assembly Speaker Park Byung-seok of DP might be considered. And for Japan, it's Chung Se-gyun probably, right? Chung Se-gyun
He's
is...
the former prime minister under the Moon Jae-in administration, and he's also former National Assembly speaker with a DP background. So we should see those announcements come out within the next week or so.
And lastly, APEC invitations are sent with Lee Jae-myung's name to all the APEC member states, including Putin, probably.
Yes.
They try to sort of not mention the name, the presidential office, but they said it's basically sent out to all the APEC members. So this means that Trump, Xi, and Putin are all invited. We're not hearing yet what the responses are, but Xi has been repeatedly, mentioning that he is interested in coming, but it's still something we have to keep an eye on. It's late October to early November. And Chung Dong-yang, the Unification Minister nominee during confirmation hearing, said something about like we could maybe invite Kim Jong-un, although North Korea is not part of APEC member state.
Tooth fairy dream.
Yeah, good luck with that. Like imagine Kim Jong-un wanting to actually come to APEC. Like he didn't even decide to come to Seoul. Like what is he going to do? Like ride a KTX?
Well...
And when it comes to China Victory Day, like you mentioned, it's still unclear. But it was interesting last Friday, right after our podcast episode went out, that Jo Gap-jae and Jeong Gyu-jae, a very famous older conservative pundit, that turned pro Lee Jae-myung during election campaign, saying that, martial law backing conservative party is not conservative anymore. It was a smart move by Lee Jae-myung by inviting two of them into a private luncheon with
very
them.
Prominent conservative
and,
YouTubers.
Yeah, and after the meeting, I think Jo Gap-jae or Jeong Gyu-jae, he went on a radio interview and said that Lee mentioned, when asked about the Victory Day, Lee framed it along the lines of, if Trump goes, I might consider it, which is a very smart way of framing that to the centrists here, because this sort of diffuses the concern that the PPP lawmakers have been having for good reason about, China summit coming ahead of the, U.S. summit.
Looking to stay informed about South Korea's fast-evolving political, business and cultural landscape? Join us on Korea Pro, the go-to resource for in-depth analysis expertly curated by top-tier professionals. And now you can pick the membership level that best suits your needs, thanks to our new subscription packages. Starting at just $199 annually, you can access daily analysis and our weekly podcast. Or try our premium membership package, which offers additional perks such as executive briefings, monthly reports and forecasts, networking receptions and event opportunities, as well as much, much more. To find the best fit for you, just head to signup.koreapro.org and become a member today.
Week ahead, what's on the radar for next week?
Yeah, so we've got actually just tomorrow on Friday, we've got the trilateral vice foreign ministerial meeting. That's the second time that the current first deputy foreign minister, Park Yoon-hoo, will be heading to Japan for this sort of trilateral foreign ministers meeting, where you'll see quite a number of issues come up on trade, security, that will happen under the three countries. The confirmations of the ministers that are currently in the hearings, and hearings are set to take place tomorrow as well, are set to take place probably within the week or within next week, where the president will approve the decisions or not approve the decisions, depending on what the political agenda of the day is.
And then we are expecting SK Hynix second quarter revenue, and it seems like it is going to win compared to competing against Samsung. Samsung's Q2 result has already come out earlier this month, and it seems like they did not do such a great job year on year, largely because of their lack of competitive edge when it comes to HBM3E, because they're not still certified by NVIDIA. We have been talking about this for a while. Also, it seems like there has been not much margin that they got from the operating cost, it seems. And meanwhile, this morning we saw Lee Jae-yong related court news.
Yeah, so the Samsung Electronics chairman, Lee Jae-yong, he was acquitted from the sort of high-profile case over the 2015 merger of the two Samsung affiliates, Cheil Industries Incorporated and Samsung C&T Corporation. It was a deal sort of widely viewed as something that was pivotal to his sort of succession after his father, Lee Gon-hee, got the heart attack in 2014. And
it's a major shareholder issue, right?
And the ruling, nearly sort of 5 years after Lee was first indicted, cleared him of allegations of unfair trading, stock manipulation, and accounting fraud that was related to the merger. So all 19 charges against him have been dropped.
And when it comes to the Constitution Day, which is today, Thursday, Lee Jae-yong just mentioned that he might consider making it a public holiday. Not for this year, but maybe keep an eye on that if you want one extra holiday if you're based in South Korea. And lastly, also, if you're based in South Korea and if you're a foreign national, the supplementary cash voucher that the Lee Jae-yong administration pledged for and sort of passed the National Assembly on the cabinet meeting, you can register starting July 21st. And generally, foreign nationals are excluded, but exceptions are made if they live with at least one Korean national registered at the same address, or if they are F5, F6, or F2 to 4 visas, which are permanent residents and marriage immigrants and so on and so forth. And you do have to be registered for the National Health Insurance subscriber. The reason why I explained this in a lengthy manner is because, if you're eligible for it, get it. I'm not saying that this policy was good or bad. It has a thin, sort of longer structural implications to the South Korean economy, but still, if you're eligible, try to get it. And all of this information will be in our week ahead newsletter in your inbox Monday, 2 p.m.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in.
If you want to know more, sign up for our daily executive briefings. We'll brief you on all you need to know from the past 24 hours and why it matters, delivered to your inbox every morning.
If you want to stay ahead of the curve, sign up for Korea Pro to get a full package of insights, from daily expert analysis to profiles, month in review, week ahead, and more.
And until next time, I'm Jeongmin Kim.
I'm Joon Park.
And I'm John Lee, and we'll see you next time on the Korea Pro Podcast.